August 2025. A federal judge demands the unthinkable. Case IH, AGCO, and the rest must open their crown jewels, private pricing, profits, and internal emails, and hand that data to John Deere and to angry farmers. AGCO's desperate appeal failed, and 1 million lines of industry secrets will soon be exposed. Why would rivals risk everything to keep this data hidden? The answer could rewrite how every farmer repairs his future. On August 8, 2025, the Northern District of Illinois delivered a blow that stunned the farm equipment industry. Judge Iain D. Johnston ordered AGCO, CNH Industrial, which includes Case IH and New Holland, and Kubota to surrender their most sensitive business information to John Deere. These were not ordinary documents. The court order demanded the full handover of pricing structures, dealer profit margins, market strategies, financial reports, and sales data, records the companies called their crown jewels. The data came from an earlier FTC investigation into alleged monopolization of repair markets. Now, the judge ruled John Deere could not defend itself against monopoly charges without seeing how its rivals operated. The scale of the compelled disclosure was unprecedented. The spreadsheets alone ran to more than 1 million lines in Excel. Legal teams joked there was no paper large enough to print the files for review. Each row listed part numbers, markups, dealer profits, and internal communications, down to the smallest component. For the manufacturers, these files represented years of guarded business secrets. They contained the formulas behind every dealer incentive, the revenue split between parts and service, and the exact margins on repairs versus equipment sales. Even internal emails about how each company structured its repair programs and locked customers into their ecosystems were included. The FTC had collected all of it, piece by piece, during its probe into whether repair restrictions unfairly hurt farmers. Judge Johnston's order swept away years of confidentiality. The court imposed strict protocols. Only lawyers, experts, and select plaintiffs could access the files. All data was marked confidential and handled under secure protocols. Even so, the companies argued that once these crown jewels left their vault, the risk of competitive harm would be permanent. The judge explained the legal rationale plainly. Fairness demanded equal access to evidence. If the FTC and farmer plaintiffs could see every detail, so could John Deere. The order relied on federal discovery rules, and it emphasized that protective measures, not blanket secrecy, should govern sensitive data. For the first time, the inner workings of every major agricultural equipment brand would be laid bare, not just to regulators, but to their fiercest rival, and to the farmers who had long suspected the game was rigged against them. AGCO's lawyers acted quickly. In September 2025, they filed a rare interlocutory appeal asking Judge Johnston to pause the handover of their confidential data. Their filings warned of irreparable harm. Once the files left their control, there would be no way to put the secrets back. AGCO argued that even the strictest confidentiality orders could not guarantee real protection, not when the stakes included pricing formulas, dealer margins, and internal strategy. CNH Industrial and Kubota joined in, raising the alarm about competitive risk and the potential for misuse. Judge Johnston's response came on September 24, 2025. The written order was blunt. The factors do not favor a stay. The court found existing protections, access limited to lawyers, experts, and a handful of plaintiffs, all under strict protocols, were enough. AGCO's fear of catastrophic loss, the judge ruled, did not outweigh the need for fairness and discovery. The appeal was denied. The data would be handed over not just to Deere's legal team, but to the 16 farmer plaintiffs in the related class action lawsuit. For years, these farmers had watched repair bills climb and choices shrink. Now, for the first time, they would see the numbers behind the curtain, what Case IH, New Holland, AGCO, and Kubota actually made on every repair, every part, every diagnostic fee. The spreadsheets would reveal whether repair costs were inflated across the industry, or if one company's practices drove the rest. Farmers could compare the markups on a sensor or a software update from one brand to the next. If the data showed uniform pricing or identical restrictions, it could point to patterns that no single lawsuit could prove alone. Inside AGCO's offices, the mood shifted from legal defense to damage control. The risk was not just to business secrets. The court's ruling handed power to those who had been locked out for decades. With access to the raw data, the farmer plaintiffs would become investigators in their own right, armed with the evidence to challenge an industry that until now had always kept its books closed. On January 26, 2026, the pressure on the farm equipment giants took on a new dimension. United States Department of Agriculture. Deputy Secretary Stephen Vaden, a former federal judge, addressed the National Ag Law Center's webinar with a message that left little room for doubt. He said, "This administration thinks farmers should be able to repair their own equipment, and the industry's efforts to prevent them from doing so are illegal." For years, the legal fight over repair restrictions had played out in civil courtrooms and regulatory filings. Now, the federal government was signaling that the issue had crossed a threshold, from business dispute to possible violation of law. The government's stance did not appear from thin air. During the previous administration, at least 2 executive orders had directed the United States Department of Agriculture to coordinate with the Department of Justice and the Federal Trade Commission on antitrust concerns in agriculture. That policy continuity gave regulators new tools and a clear mandate. The words from the United States Department of Agriculture's second-in-command sent a signal to both sides. The federal government was prepared to treat repair restrictions as an antitrust matter, not just a contract squabble. John Deere's legal team seized on this climate in its defense. Their filings argued that the company was not alone in limiting repair access. If farmers and regulators believed Deere's practices were unfair, the same scrutiny should apply to every major manufacturer, case IH, New Holland, AGCO, and Kubota. By demanding access to competitors' confidential data, Deere forced the court to examine industry-wide conduct, not just its own. The strategy risked dragging the entire sector into the spotlight, but it also offered Deere a powerful shield. If everyone imposed similar restrictions, could any one company truly be called a monopoly? As government officials sharpened their focus and the courtroom battles intensified, the stakes grew larger than any single brand. What began as a fight over diagnostic software and dealer repairs now threatened to reshape the rules of competition in American agriculture. Forensic accountants are now combing through the newly released data, searching for patterns that could reshape the entire farm equipment industry. They are not just looking at headline numbers, they are breaking down the markups on every part, the exact profit margins on repairs, and the formulas that determine what a farmer pays for a single diagnostic code. In some cases, the cost to access proprietary diagnostic software can run from $1,500 to $3,100 per year. A fee that locks out independent repair shops and keeps farmers tied to authorized dealers. Spreadsheets stretching over 1 million rows allow experts to compare how Case IH, AGCO, New Holland, and Kubota set prices side by side. By applying cluster analysis and regression models, they can spot whether the markup on a sensor or a hydraulic valve is nearly identical across brands, an indicator that competition may be more illusion than reality. If the data reveals that parts and service markups are consistently high, or that diagnostic fees track together across manufacturers, it could suggest coordination, or at least a shared approach to locking in profits. Regulators are watching closely. The FTC's ongoing lawsuit against John Deere could expand to target other manufacturers if the analysis shows industry-wide practices that hurt farmers. State lawmakers, especially in Colorado, are already using these findings as ammunition for new right to repair bills. For farmers, the stakes are immediate and personal. Transparent numbers could mean leverage in future equipment purchases, or even refunds if courts find that repair costs were artificially inflated for years. The outcome will ripple beyond the courtroom, pressuring every manufacturer to rethink how they treat repair access, pricing, and the farmers who depend on their machines. Now that industry secrets are no longer locked away, the real test begins. Will transparency break the grip of repair monopolies? Or will it simply reveal how deep the system runs? For every farmer, what is at stake is not just parts and profits. It is the future of who controls the land.